My sister tried to steal my house after our dad died, so I let her destroy her own reputation. I didn't grow up thinking my sister was a villain. Amanda wasn't evil. She was just admired, and when someone grows up admired long enough, they start believing they're entitled to things that don't belong to them, including houses, including inheritances, including other people's sacrifices. Us, growing up in Amanda's shadow. Amanda is 3 years older than me. Growing up, she was the golden child. Straight A's. Head cheerleader. Student council. Homecoming court. Teachers adored her. Parents bragged about her. Relatives compared me to her. I was quiet. Sensitive? Creative. Different? You know, the polite words people use when they don't know what else to say. But here's what no one talks about. Amanda didn't just enjoy attention. She needed it. And if she didn't get it naturally, she manufactured it. If I got praise for a drawing, she'd cry about how stressed she was from AP classes. If I made varsity soccer, she'd sprain something the same week. If I got into a decent college, she suddenly had a mental health crisis. My dad saw it. He never said it outright, but I caught the looks. The sighs. The way he'd ruffle my hair like he was apologizing for something he couldn't fix. When Dad got sick, 3 years ago, Dad had his first heart attack. Amanda came to the hospital, took pictures, posted a long, emotional caption about almost losing my hero. Then she flew back home 2 days later. She lived 5 states away, married into money, big house, big holidays, perfect Instagram. I was the one who stayed. At first, I told myself it was temporary. I moved back home for a few months. Those few months became 3 years. Second surgery, physical therapy, medication schedules, insurance arguments, late-night chest pains. I learned how to read heart monitor numbers. I learned how to calm him down when anxiety made his pulse spike. I learned which pharmacy tech wouldn't screw up refills. Amanda learned which filter made hospital lighting look warm. The quiet conversations. Dad and I started having talks at night. Real ones. He'd sit in his recliner, oxygen tube resting against his cheek, and say things like, "You gave up a lot coming back." I always shrugged it off. I work remote now anyway. Which was true, but I'd also turned down a promotion, ended a relationship, put my life on pause. And I never told Amanda that, because if she knew it cost me something, she'd use that as leverage later. She always did. The will? 6 months before he passed, Dad asked me to drive him to his attorney's office. I didn't think much of it. Estate planning felt distant, like something for older people who had decades left. He was quiet on the drive home. Then he said, "I made sure things are fair. I didn't ask what that meant." He added, "Fair doesn't always mean equal." That sentence didn't fully hit me until later. The night everything changed. The night he died was unremarkable, which somehow makes it worse. We watched a baseball game, ordered takeout. He complained about the announcer. Around 11 p.m., he said he was tired. At 2:14 a.m., I heard something hit the floor. By 2:23 a.m., I was on the phone with 911. By 3:02 a.m., I was alone in the kitchen staring at 2 unfinished glasses of water. Amanda arrived the next afternoon. Perfectly styled hair, designer sunglasses, collapsed dramatically into my arms at the hospital lobby. I can't believe he's gone. Neither could I. But I hadn't left his side in 3 years. The funeral performance. She cried loudly, held onto the casket, gave a speech about Daddy's little girl. Everyone comforted her. No one noticed I was the one who signed the hospice forms, the one who handled the bills, the one who knew where he kept the important documents. After the service, relatives kept saying to Amanda, "I don't know what your brother will do without him." She squeezed my shoulder and said, "He'll figure it out." Like I was some temporary tenant in my own life. 2 weeks later, grief hadn't even settled into something stable yet. The house still smelled like Dad's aftershave. I was sorting through paperwork when I heard a car door slam outside. Amanda walked in without knocking. Behind her, a man in a blazer, and another guy carrying a camera bag. "Surprise," she said. The man in the blazer stuck out his hand. "Hi, I'm Darren. Real estate." I blinked. "What?" Amanda smiled like she was unveiling a gift. "We're listing it next week." "The market's hot." My brain lagged. Listing what? Then I realized, the house. Our house. The house I'd lived in for 3 years, taking care of our father. The house she hadn't stepped foot in outside of holidays. You can't just... She cut me off. As the oldest, I'll handle the sale. We'll split it after. Split it after. Like it was already decided. The moment I could have exploded. There's a version of this story where I screamed, where I threw them out, where I told her exactly what I thought of her visits. But I didn't. Because I remembered something. Dad's words. Fair doesn't always mean equal. And I remembered the email from the attorney, the one Amanda had apparently ignored. So instead I said, "Did you read the will?" She waved a hand dismissively. Of course. It's standard. Standard. I almost laughed. Instead I said, "Let's call Mr. Henderson." The call. I put the phone on speaker. Amanda looked mildly irritated but confident. Mr. Henderson picked up. Polite as always. I explained that Amanda was preparing to list the property. There was a pause. Then, list the property? The property was deeded solely to you. Silence. Amanda's smile faltered. What do you mean solely? Mr. Henderson cleared his throat. Your father amended his will last year. The house was transferred entirely to your brother. The realtor stopped taking pictures. Amanda's husband slowly lowered the measuring tape. Amanda blinked. That doesn't make sense. Mr. Henderson continued. Your father left you the full savings account and investment portfolio. Her husband whispered, you said it was 50-50. She ignored him. There must be a mistake. There is no mistake, Mr. Henderson replied calmly. There was also a written note attached. Amanda's face drained of color. Read it, I said quietly. And he did. The note. To Amanda, I love you, but your brother gave up his job and life to care for me. The house is his. I hope you understand that this is not punishment. It is gratitude. Dad. The air felt thick. Heavy. Amanda looked like someone had slapped her. Her husband stared at her like he'd just realized something uncomfortable. The realtor slowly zipped her bag. I'll delete the draft listing. No one stopped her. The meltdown. Amanda's eyes filled with tears. But not the quiet kind. The angry kind. You manipulated him. There it was. The script she always used when things didn't go her way. I stayed calm. He changed it a year ago. You isolated him. You visited twice. The room went silent. Even her husband looked at her. She started crying louder, saying Dad owed her, saying I stole this, that I played martyr. And that's when something in me shifted. For 3 years, I never asked for recognition. Never asked for repayment. Never asked for acknowledgement. Dad gave it anyway. In ink. Legally binding ink. The aftermath. They left without another word. Amanda texted me that night. You'll regret this. Like I'd orchestrated the entire thing. Like I'd forged a will. Like I'd convinced a dying man to reward the person who bathed him when he couldn't stand. The next morning, she posted on Facebook. A vague status about betrayal and being blindsided. She didn't mention the will. She didn't mention the note. She didn't mention the 3 years. But here's the part she didn't anticipate. People talk. Our aunt commented, your brother was there every day. A family friend wrote, your dad told me he was grateful for him. Someone else said, didn't you move away years ago? Her post quietly disappeared within 24 hours. But here's where it gets worse. I thought that was the end. It wasn't. Because Amanda doesn't lose quietly. 3 weeks later, I received a certified letter. She was contesting the will, claiming undue influence, claiming Dad wasn't in a clear mental state, which meant court, which meant lawyers, which meant dragging our father's final year into public examination. And that's when I realized she wasn't embarrassed. She was desperate, and desperation makes people reckless. This is only the beginning. She took me to court and exposed more than she meant to. When the certified letter arrived, I already knew what it was before I opened it. The envelope was thick, important looking, aggressive. Amanda had always believed that if she pushed hard enough, reality would bend for her. This time, she was pushing the legal system. Undue influence. That was the phrase her lawyer used. Undue influence, meaning I supposedly manipulated our dying father into rewriting his will. The irony? Dad updated the will a year before he passed, at a time when he was driving himself to physical therapy and arguing with me about salt intake. But none of that mattered. Because now it was official. I wasn't just grieving. I was being accused. Us. The first lawyer meeting. I hired a probate attorney named Claire. She was calm, sharp, efficient. She read the complaint twice, then looked at me and said, "Your sister is either emotional or misinformed." "She's both," I replied. Claire asked the important question. "Was your father mentally competent when he amended the will?" "Yes." "Do you have proof?" I paused. And then I remembered something. Dad insisted on a full cognitive evaluation before the surgery that year. Standard hospital procedure, memory tests, orientation questions, neurological checks, all documented. Claire smiled. "That's going to be useful." Amanda's narrative. Through court filings, I learned her version of events. According to her, I isolated Dad from family. I managed his medications inappropriately. I discouraged visitation. I pressured him during vulnerable moments. It read like a bad TV drama. Except this one had my name on it. The worst part? She wasn't just fighting for money. She was trying to rewrite history. And if she won, it wouldn't just cost me the house. It would stain the last 3 years of my life. The mediation attempt? Before court, there was mandatory mediation. We met in a beige office with stale coffee and too bright lighting. Amanda wouldn't look at me. Her husband sat beside her, stiff and uncomfortable. Her lawyer did most of the talking. They proposed, sell the house, split proceeds 60-40, drop further claims. 60-40. She wanted more than half. Claire leaned over and whispered, "They're fishing." I looked at Amanda and said calmly, "No." That was it. One word. She finally looked at me. And in her eyes, I saw something I hadn't seen before. Not anger. Not entitlement. Fear. The discovery phase. Then came discovery. Document requests. Medical records. Financial statements. Email logs. Amanda's team wanted everything. And Claire requested everything back. That's when cracks started forming. Because the will wasn't the only thing Dad had adjusted. He had also removed Amanda as secondary executor, transferred property taxes solely into my name, documented caregiving hours in a handwritten ledger. Dad was old school. He kept receipts, literal ones, groceries, medical supplies, home repairs, each labeled, each dated, each initialed. He even wrote notes in the margins like, "Couldn't have done this without him." Amanda's legal strategy depended on Dad appearing confused. But the paper trail showed the opposite. It showed a man thinking clearly, deliberately, gratefully. The investment account surprise. Then came something no one expected. Remember the investment portfolio Amanda inherited? It looked impressive on paper. 6 figures, retirement funds, brokerage accounts. But once full financial disclosures were exchanged, something surfaced. There were outstanding margin loans against a portion of the investments. Legal, but risky. Dad had leveraged some assets during his second surgery to cover uninsured expenses. Meaning, the account wasn't worth what Amanda thought. After taxes and loan repayment, her bigger half wasn't so big. Claire didn't gloat. She simply said, "This may explain the urgency." Suddenly, Amanda's desperation made more sense. She wasn't fighting for fairness. She was trying to patch a financial hole. The deposition. The day of Amanda's deposition was the first time I felt something close to calm. Because depositions aren't about performance. They're about consistency. Under oath, for 6 hours. Claire asked gentle, precise questions. "How often did you visit your father in 2022? "Twice. 23? "Once. Did you attend medical appointments? "No." "Were you present when he amended the will?" "No." "Did you request to review the will before his death?" "No." Then Amanda's lawyer questioned me. He tried to paint me as controlling. I answered plainly. No embellishment, no emotion. Facts. Dates, times, medical records. At one point, he asked, "Did you ever discourage your sister from visiting?" I paused, then said, "I told her Dad asked why she didn't come more often." That answer lingered in the room. The voicemail. There was one thing I hadn't mentioned yet, because I didn't think I'd need it. 2 months before Dad passed, he left me a voicemail. He was lucid, clear, warm. He said, "Hey kid, just wanted to say I finalized everything today. Feels good knowing you're taken care of. Don't argue with your sister about it. I made the choice. I kept that voicemail. I didn't share it publicly, but during preparation for trial, Claire asked if there was anything else. I played it. She closed her eyes while listening. When it ended, she said, "That's powerful." "We submitted it as evidence," Amanda's attorney objected. The judge allowed it. EO. The courtroom. The courtroom wasn't dramatic like television. It was procedural. Structured. Measured. Amanda avoided eye contact. When the voicemail played, I didn't look at her. But I heard her breathing change. The judge listened carefully, then reviewed the cognitive evaluation, then the ledger, then the timeline of visits, then the margin loan statements. It wasn't one big revelation that broke her case. It was the accumulation, small truths stacking on top of each other, until her narrative collapsed under its own weight. Amanda didn't cry this time. She just stared straight ahead. Her husband didn't look at her. When we walked out of the courthouse, she said one thing. "You've turned everyone against me." I answered quietly, "I didn't turn anyone. I just stopped protecting you." And that was the truth. For years, I softened her behavior when relatives complained. I defended her absences. I minimized her selfishness. Court documents don't do that. They're cold, objective, permanent. EO. The fallout. Within weeks, extended family knew what happened. Not from me, from public records. Amanda stopped attending gatherings. Her husband's business had a rough quarter, and rumors swirled that the margin loans had been part of broader financial strain. I didn't investigate. I didn't gloat. I changed the locks again, installed security cameras. And finally, for the first time in 3 years, I allowed myself to sit in the living room without feeling like I was on guard. But this isn't where the story ends. Because 3 months later, Amanda showed up again. Alone. No lawyer. No husband. And what she asked for that night? It wasn't money. It wasn't the house. It was something I never expected. 3 months after the court ruling, I finally started sleeping through the night. No court dates. No lawyer emails. No certified letters. Just quiet. The house felt different by then. Not heavy. Not haunted. Just still. I'd repainted the hallway. Fixed the loose cabinet Dad never got around to repairing. Planted new shrubs out front. Small things. Steady things. It finally felt like mine. Not because I won it, because I'd earned staying in it. The knock. It was raining the night she came back. Not dramatic thunderstorm rain. Just steady, cold November rain. I almost didn't answer the door. I wasn't expecting anyone, but something in me knew. When I opened it, Amanda was standing there alone. No husband. No expensive coat. No perfectly styled hair. Just a hoodie. Wet sneakers. Smudged mascara. For a split second, I saw my older sister again. Not the version who hired lawyers. Not the one who tried to sell the house. Just Amanda. "I need to talk," she said. Her voice was small. I hesitated, then stepped aside. EO. She didn't sit like she used to. She walked into the living room and looked around slowly. Like she hadn't actually seen the house in years. Her eyes lingered on Dad's recliner. I hadn't moved it. I don't know why. She didn't sit in it. She sat on the edge of the couch instead. Hands clasped. Knees bouncing. "I'm not here about the house," she said quickly. "I know." There was a long silence. The kind where two people are deciding whether to keep pretending or finally tell the truth. She exhaled. "I'm getting divorced." I didn't react. Not outwardly, but internally pieces started aligning. The urgency, the 60-40 mediation demand, the panic. "The investments weren't enough," she said quietly. I didn't respond. She continued. "He lost money, a lot of it, before Dad died." There it was, the missing piece. Her husband's business hadn't just had a rough quarter. It had been collapsing. "They were counting on the house sale," I said. It wasn't a question. She nodded. "He told me it was ours, that it was always supposed to be split. And you believed him?" I needed to. That sentence landed heavier than anything else she'd said. EO. The truth. She never said out loud. "I didn't visit because it was hard," she blurted. I looked at her. "Hard how?" She swallowed. He didn't look at me the same after I moved away. That surprised me. He thought I abandoned him. He never said that. He didn't have to. Her voice cracked. I didn't know how to come back without admitting I left. For years, I'd assumed she didn't care. But sitting there, she didn't look indifferent. She looked ashamed. And when he changed the will, she whispered, it felt like proof. Proof that she'd failed him. Proof that she wasn't the golden child anymore. Proof that love had conditions. It didn't. But guilt makes everything transactional. The thing I wasn't ready for? I was jealous of you, she said suddenly. That almost made me laugh. Of me? You got the version of him I didn't. That stopped me. You got his stories, his quiet nights, his forgiveness. I thought about that. She was right. I did get those things, but they weren't handed to me. They were built, slowly, through grocery runs and blood pressure checks, through arguments about sodium, through sitting beside him when he couldn't breathe. You could have had that too, I said gently. I know. She looked around again. At the walls, at the photos, at the house she tried to sell. I don't want the house, she said finally. I just didn't want to feel replaced. That was the first honest thing she'd said in years. Ew, what she asked for. I was hoping, she hesitated, I could take some things. What things? Pictures. Mom's jewelry. Maybe Dad's watch. Relief washed over me so unexpectedly I had to steady myself. All this destruction. All this court. And she just wanted pieces of memory. You could have asked, I said. I didn't think you'd say yes. That hurt more than the lawsuit. Because somewhere along the way she decided I was her enemy. Not her brother. Ew. The box. We went upstairs together. It felt strange. Like walking through time. I pulled down the storage bin labeled Mom. She touched the lid carefully. Inside were photo albums. Old birthday cards. The pearl necklace Mom wore to every holiday dinner. Amanda held it like it might disappear. We found Dad's watch in his dresser. She cried quietly when she picked it up. Not loud, not dramatic. Just real. The question. Before she left, she paused at the door. Do you hate me? It was such a small question, but it carried years inside it. I thought about the court filings, the accusations, the Facebook posts, the stress. Then I thought about Dad's note. I love you. This is gratitude. He didn't say choose sides. He didn't say punish her. He just made a decision. I don't hate you, I said finally. But I'm not protecting you anymore. She nodded. That was fair. Fair doesn't always mean equal. 1 year later. We don't talk every day. We're not suddenly best friends. But we have dinner once a month. Neutral restaurants. Slow conversations. She moved into a smaller apartment. Works full-time now. There's less polish. More honesty. Sometimes she apologizes again. Sometimes I let her. The house is still mine. Legally. Physically. Emotionally. But it doesn't feel like a trophy. It feels like what it always was meant to be. A place someone stayed. The final thing I learned. Amanda didn't try to steal my house because she was evil. She tried because she was afraid. Afraid of being left out. Afraid of being less loved. Afraid of facing the years she missed. Grief doesn't always look like sadness. Sometimes it looks like greed. Sometimes it looks like a lawsuit. Sometimes it looks like a sister standing in the rain, asking for pictures. And sometimes, it looks like finally telling the truth.